Let's pray. As we take in a deep breath of spirit, and in the letting go of the exhaling, we make room for more of the Tao to flow through us. We learn to connect with it inside. We learn to let it guide us. And we ask so that we can receive. And we trust that it always delivers the goodness that it is. It is only good. And in this one moment, as we get still, we say yes to the goodness. And so it is. Namaste. So we're moving into verse 21 to 25. And as I said, for me, this whole Tao Te Ching spirals higher and higher. Many times you're going to hear concepts that we've already talked about 3-4 weeks ago. And the reason for that is there is only one truth. Many voices, many ways to look at one truth. And so we see that in the Tao Te Ching as it spirals to a place that will take us deeper and deeper. As I said, the book stands for the way and have the shape and the power to live the way. Lao Tzu was not interested in just writing books for book's sake. He was interested in the wisdom that allows us to live at a better place, to live at a higher place, to live in a place of happiness and abundance and affluence in every area of our lives. And I think you'll see that even today as we touch on these different areas. We know from quantum physics that we only know 4% of the universe and only 4% about ourselves. 2,600 years ago, Lao Tzu was writing and speaking and teaching about the other 96%. And we've had many teachers since that in the 2,600 years that have gone by. And that's what the focus here is, because if you and I focus on the 4% we already know, our life isn't going to change. We're already in the consciousness and the energy of the 4% of what we know. The only way we can begin to affect change for ourselves to go to another higher place is to begin to look into the 96% that we don't know. And how do we connect with that? How do we align with that? Well, one of the greatest spiritual teachers, I believe, of all time was Albert Einstein. And he said, everything is energy, and that's all there is to it. How much time have we spent since he taught that on everything that wasn't energy? And we missed what it's all about. Sometime around 1920, Chardin, who was a French priest, Jesuit priest, began to shift human consciousness when he said, we are spiritual beings having a human experience, not human beings having a spiritual experience. The whole consciousness began to shift at that time. There was only a few people who got it early on. But it brought this whole concept to mainstream. And where we are today in consciousness in the globe, I believe, made a huge shift when he began to teach. Oh, no, we're much more than just human beings. We're actually spiritual beings having this experience for a short parenthesis in eternity, from this year to that year. That's only a very, very, very small piece of who and you, what we are. That begins to take us to the 96% we don't know. We know the 4%. We know what we've done from whenever we were born to this day. So in 2021, we're seeing another jump. That was about 1920s. Now we're in 2020s. And we're beginning to see this and beginning to understand that no, we're even more than that. We are energy beings having a physical experience, not physical beings having an energetic experience. And as we begin to shift and understand it's all about energy, as Einstein told us 100 years ago, and that's just the way it is, we begin to access ways that we can change that we did not know. We begin to get into the 96%. So let's look at verse 21 today. The greatest virtue is to follow the Tao, and the Tao alone. What I love about Lao Tzu is there's no wiggle room. There's no gray with him. It's either boom, boom, or then it's a paradox. The Tao is elusive and intangible. Although formless and intangible, it gives rise to form. Although vague and elusive, it gives rise to shape. And although dark and obscure, it is spirit, the essence, the life of all things, including you and me. Throughout the ages, its name has been preserved in order to recall the beginning of all things. How do I know the ways of all things at the beginning? How do you know? You look inside yourself and see what is within you. It's the only place you and I can find it. It's the only place we can connect with the 96% that we don't know. Because it's not out here. We've been looking for it in all the wrong places. So what is he talking about? What I love, because you know, I love to see the continuum of human consciousness. Hafiz came out of the Persian desert, had nothing to do with Lao Tzu in China. About 1,000 years ago, 1,600 years ago. So 1,000 years after Lao Tzu. And here's what he said. If you think that truth can be known from words, if you think that the sun and the ocean can pass through that tiny opening called the mouth, oh, someone should start laughing. Someone should start laughing wildly now. How much time and energy have we given to what came out of this tiny little opening called the mouth? Whether it's ours or someone else's mouth. And Lao Tzu, 1,000 years later, Hafiz, in the middle of the Persian desert, gets connected with this very same truth, and we've seen spiritual teachers over all the centuries teaching the very same thing. If you're looking for it anywhere out of the mouth or anywhere externally or outside of yourself, you might as well just stop and start wildly laughing. You'll be more successful. How much of religion has been about what's out the mouth? How much of spirituality has been about what's out the mouth? And I believe that's one of the reasons we have seen not the wild success that Lao Tzu talks about. So we go back to the very first verse, live the mystery. What's the mystery? The mystery is the 96% that you don't know about you. The 96% of the universe that you don't know. Go inside. Go the whole way back to your beginning. Have you ever done that? Where'd you come from? Well, it's very easy for us to say, well, you know, I came from my mom and dad. No, you didn't. Where did you come from? And until you begin to ask that, and until you begin to feel what that energy was and that force, the intelligence that brought you here, for what reason? If we don't get connected to that, we never know beyond the 4% that we already know. All creation is a function of motion from formless to form, including you and me. All of us here came from no form at some point. And we're going to return to no form. But why not be connected with that same energy and that same intelligence that brought you here out of formless while we're in the form? That's what this teaching is all about from 2,600 years ago and many others is not this 4% that you and I know. This is the elusive paradox. You are formless in form. Not but, and. And I invite you, I welcome you to contemplate this, to allow it and experience it and get connected with it, because it takes you to a different place than you've been, and it will take you to a different place than the majority of people around you. Move your pointer finger. What made that move? I mean, I can lop this finger off and set it over here and it will never move. So it's not my finger. It's not the muscles and tendons inside, because they'd still be there. Some force, some intelligence allowed you to do this. That's the connection we're looking for. That existed before you were in the form, before you were physical. How do you get connected with that? How do you understand it? And then once you do, how do you use that today, during the day? Communicate, here's some suggestions. Communicate with Source regularly. Ask for guidance. Many times when I'm coaching someone, I'll say to them, well, did you ask? Well, no. Why not? You have the whole universe to answer the correct answer. Oh no, I'm going to stay in my tiny little brain and ego and figure this whole thing out. I only know 4%. How could I get it right? I can't. Ask for guidance. Meditate on the sacredness of this force, this intelligence that's running for you, through you. And you're going to see this time and time again in the Tao and other teachings. Thank God for everything. Go to a place of gratitude. Go to a place of thanksgiving. Even when you don't feel like it, it will take you to that place. You'll begin to get the energy of gratitude. And it will shift everything immediately. You should memorize the last 2 lines of this verse and recite it whenever you need it. I look inside myself and I see what is within me. I look inside myself and see what is within me. That's shifting from circumference, from the 4% known, into the 96% unknown. Make the shift. But it will never, ever come without the invite. And your desire. You have to bring the want to. Otherwise it just passes us by and goes on to the person who's waiting with open arms to receive it all. But you and I get the choice. That's how powerful we are with the choice. To say, I want to be in that flow. I want to understand that 96% that I don't understand. And when you begin to ask, it is guaranteed in the universal law that you will receive an answer. And I will challenge anyone here to say you've never received an answer. Come talk to me, sit down, and we're going to find an answer for you. Maybe you were asking in a different way. Maybe your energy, that when you were asking, was repelling the answer. Because remember what Einstein said. It's always about the energy. We can ask and have the energy to repel. And you and I have all done that. It doesn't show up then. Here's Wayne Dyer's Change Your Thoughts. How do I know the way of all things at the very beginning? I see it within myself. Dr. Wayne Dyer has taken us to the same place, back to inside, get connected with Source. Over and over and again. Many different voices, many different ways. So here's my suggestion for you this week. Take 5 minutes and stay in the gap between the thoughts. You all know what I mean when I say that? Do you know how to do it? Do you do it? Because the only place you can get connected with the 96% is when you're not in your thought. So in meditation, as a thought comes, and they will always come, anyone that tells you you can be void of thought is crazy. They can't. We wired them to machines. There's always thought. But there's a gap at the end of the thought. That's where you want to go. And it may be a nanosecond. That's okay. Another thought comes. I wonder what I'm having for dinner. Gap. Maybe a nanosecond. Oh, spaghetti. Oh, I don't want spaghetti. Gap. Let the thoughts come by like the clouds. Find the gap. And when you find the gap, you begin to go into the 96% unknown. Feel this. This is elusive but omnipresent, invisible source that provides all energy to you. It's here for each and every one of us. But the way we connect is find the gap. You cannot connect with it in your thoughts. Ever. It's in the gap. And the more you will practice this, I believe it's one of the most important practices we have, as you practice it, the gap begins to expand. And the thoughts get less. We move out of monkey mind to peaceful mind. But in peaceful mind, we're still going to have thoughts. The thought might be, I wonder how good I am at meditating today. That's a thought. That's our meditation. But there's a gap right after that question. Find a gap. And you begin to get connected with the 96%. Let's go to verse 22. I love this verse. The flexible are preserved unbroken. The bent are preserved straight. The empty are filled. The exhausted become renewed. The poor are enriched, and the rich are confounded. Therefore, the sage embraces the one, the 96%. Because he does not display himself, people can see his light. Because he has nothing to prove, people can trust his words. Because he does not know who he is, people recognize themselves in him. And because he has no goal in mind, everything he does succeeds. The old saying, the flexible are preserved, unbroken, is surely right. If you have truly attained wholeness, everything will flock to you. Everything will flock to you. In Maui, and many times in Wayne Dyer's work, he talks about these giant palm trees. They're sometimes between 30 and 40 feet high, and they're very old. And they're bald in the roots in the sand. You're like, how can they exist? They thrive in 200 mile per hour winds of the hurricanes for year after year. Why? They are so flexible, they will bend the whole way to the ground. 30, 40 feet up. They don't resist the storm. They don't resist the 200 mile an hour winds. They go, okay, it's blowing hard today. They live, this too shall pass. And I guarantee you not one of those palm trees ever tells its neighbor, can you believe what happened yesterday? They never talk about the past. They just be in a moment. Stately, strong. Another wind comes. We get entangled in our storms, do we not? And when we get entangled in our storms, what do? We expand them. And then we got to tell everybody on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, oh, how awful my day was. And then we add more energy to it, and then more people, our friends and our loved ones, that they add theirs to it. And now we have a tempest. Let it be. Let it go. Let it blow through. Bend. Flexible. Wendy was telling me before the service that she studied these, and that the old ones have a hollow. They're more flexible. The young ones aren't. They don't have hollow. They're not flexible. They get snapped off. I said, oh, now I understand why there's not a forest of stately palm trees. The little ones don't make it because they're not flexible. And they just get snapped off when the next hurricane comes. Those of us who learn to be flexible and go with the storms of life are the ones who are not only going to survive, but thrive like they do. Embrace this quality of elasticity. Begin to feel the oneness of the Tao and allow it to provide you the resilience and the grounding to thrive through the storms of your day. They will pass. Sadness becomes happiness. Right? We've watched it over and over again. But we can become conscious creators of that movement. Not fighting, instead go with the flow of the Tao time. Allow the flexibility. Allow to be bent over to the ground in complete and total surrender to whatever it is. That energy of the storm will pass you by, I promise you. Hurricanes never last forever. No storm does. They burn out. They lose their energy. COVID-19 will never last forever. It too shall pass. Change the way you see the storms in your life. See yourself as these tall, stately, giant palm trees. When you start to feel that next storm come, breathe, go inside and say, how can I be flexible? How can I let that energy come? And what happens is the energy comes and it just flows through you. Instead of standing rigid and leaning against it and trying to resist it and trying to fight back. What part of me wants to fight back? What part of you? It's our ego. It's not the Tao, it's not spirit. That is going to bend. Let it flow through and come back and get centered again. We can learn a lot from nature. We can learn a lot from these stately palms. Again, Wayne Dyer says, I avoid any brokenness by being flexible and bending when the storms appear. They will appear. No matter how long you come to unity or go anywhere else, you're going to have storms in your life. We all do. Everybody's storms are different. We put more importance on different things. But we're all going to have them. Why? How do I know that for certain? Because this is the planet. This is the schoolhouse to learn. That's why we're here, right? 2 reasons, learn and serve. And as we learn and get to the place of flexibility, we will be more prepared to serve someone who comes by who's getting blown over or rigid or resisting against the storm. You'll be in a place you can suggest. Take a breath. Relax. Let it go. I know it feels really important to you at this moment. But in the scheme of things, or if you go up at 10,000 feet, how important is this storm you're in? And it takes a different perspective to move to the place of flexibility. I love this one. I'm really working on this. I'm not so good at it yet. Listen to someone express an opinion that's opposite of yours. Am I going to resist it? Refuse to impose your position. Instead, remark, I've never considered that point of view. What happened to the storm? It's gone. It doesn't exist. Why? Because I wouldn't engage in that energy. I never considered that point of view. Thank you for that. The storm, energy goes, because egos require egos to have a battle. And when you refuse the battle, that energy just flows and goes around and comes back to that. Right? Universal boomerang, universal return energy, universal karma. What you put out comes back. If you don't engage in it, I don't put anything negative back. It's going to make its full circle and go their way, and I send them with love and blessings on their way. Not easy, but incredibly powerful to stop engaging in the resistance of the storm. By allowing a contrarian position to be heard, you dismiss the ego's attitude and welcome the flexibility of the Tao. This is doing the Tao. This is living it, not talking about it. Look for the next time someone comes at you, and usually they come at you with some energy, don't they? They're like, oh, I got this handle, I know exactly. First thing you want to remember, they only know 4%. Breathe into the 96%. Nah, I'm not going there. They really don't know, because we're in the 96%. Verse 23. To talk little is natural. Fierce winds do not blow all morning. A downpour of rain does not last the whole day. Who does this, heaven and earth? But there are exaggerated force effects, and that is why they cannot be sustained. This is back to the hurricane. They are never here forever. If heaven and earth cannot sustain a forced action, how much less are you and I able to do? So when you see someone who's really triggered you, just remember that it too shall pass. And if there's no engagement, I mean, one of the things we're going to work on in the workshop in June is that emotions only last 90 seconds. And we'll teach you how to do that. They never last any more than that unless you engage in the thought. The actual energy of it, it's no different than a hurricane. A hurricane spins, gets all excited, works itself up, and it will come in and out of a city in an hour. Now we anticipate it for 8 days, you know. It's coming off the Cape of Africa, it's on its way across the ocean. And for 8 days we're glued to who watches the Weather Channel except when the hurricanes come? The whole consciousness of the whole world is watching, and it seems like it lasts forever, and it comes through the city in an hour. And then we're in the eye of the storm, and then it's gone. Learn our lessons from nature. It's going to come and go, no matter what we're feeling from other people. Those who follow the way become one with the way. We've talked about this over and over in different languages, or different words. Those who follow goodness become one with goodness. Those who stray from the way and goodness become one with failure. I don't know that he could write this any clearer for you and I. If we're in oneness with the joy, if we're in oneness with the happiness, with the peace, with the goodness, we're going to see that energy begin to take us to different places. But if we're not, he calls it one with failure. If you conform to the way, its power flows through you. Your actions become those of nature, your ways those of heaven. Open yourself to the Tao and trust your natural responses, then everything will fall into place. That's a very bold statement, is it not? Everything will fall into place. And I know from my experience it's true when I'm in the flow. And I also know when I'm not in the flow is a great failure. So the job you and I have is continue to monitor our energy. Are we aligned with this energy of the Tao? And when we're not, we are off the path. We are off the beam. And we're bringing all that other stuff that we really don't want. We spend so much time on what we don't want, and not a lot of time on what we do want. And as we begin to make that shift, the shift happens inside, but it also begins to shift energetically. And as physics is physics, like attracts like, always. And if you're attracting anything in your life other than what you want, then you are in an environment within you, in your energy within you, that is attracting exactly what you don't want. And that's what we're talking about. Get back to the Tao, so you don't have the great failure that you and I have all had in our lives. Everything on this planet that is composed ultimately decomposes. All of it. So why do we get so wigged out about change? It's a given. Everything's going to change. on this planet. Everything on earth is temporary and is constant state of change. Constant state of change. You are, your body is, the world is, your loved ones are, your family are, all of it is in a constant state of change. And Lao Tzu asks us to observe nature and choose to live in harmony with it. Why nature? Because nature doesn't have ego. That palm tree is only being the best palm tree. It doesn't try, it sees its neighbor over there growing these incredible lemons. It says, wow, I'd rather be a lemon tree. Nature doesn't work that way. Only humans do. And what he's saying here is we can observe what's going on in nature. We can learn a lot about being in the flow because nature's in the flow. Perfectly. The lesson here is to become aware enough to take a pause in your negative emotions and know that peace is on the way. If you truly get that any negative emotion will only last 90 seconds, we can all make it through 90 seconds, can't we? When it doesn't last 90 seconds, when we engage this, and then we begin to analyze. Well, I think maybe that came from my mother. No, I think my dad taught me that one. Who cares where it came from? Let it go. 90 seconds. All of us can hang on no matter how intense the negative emotion is. Take a deep breath, a couple of them in 90 seconds, it's gone. If we don't engage this and begin to analyze. That's what he's talking about here. That's the 90 seconds. We know 4% is, we know how to analyze the 4% real well, right? I mean, if you're more than 20 years old, you've been analyzing yourself over and over and over and over again forever. You know that peace. Go to the peace you don't know. Relax, breathe into it, and let it pass through. Suspend the ego-driven plans and instead participate in the power that created you and me. And allow that to guide us in every detail of our lives. King James Version says, it's the Father's greatest pleasure to give you it all. Even they knew it in the Old Testament. But I always say, oh no, I'll just take a little piece because that's all I'm worthy of. No, that's not true. You're worthy of it all, or it wouldn't be offered to you. And that's why I'm using the word affluent, because it's not just about money, it's not just about career, it's about peace of mind and joy and happiness for absolutely no other reason. That's what is ours to have if we're willing to open up and say yes. I love this affirmation. This is a temporary setback. I'm going to release myself from having to be the person in control. I know no one here likes to be in control, probably but me. But the lesson is to learn to let it go, to get in the flow. I tried something new out this week with my ego, and my ego was getting after me after something. I said, I'm in the flow, I'm in the river without any oars, and if you don't shut up, you're going in the river. I found out my ego can't swim. Doesn't like the water. Now I've got leverage. I'm telling you, if you don't shut up, you're going in the river. Silence. I love to get one up on the ego. T.S. Eliot said this in a poem, because I know that time is always time, and place is always and only place, and what is actual only for a time, and only for one place. I rejoice that things are as they are in this moment. Not going to stay. Rejoice in the stillness of the Tao, in the knowledge that everything is constantly changing. And you can find peace in that. There's a lot of peace in knowing that. Wayne Dyer said this, in all of nature, no storm lasts forever. We've talked about that. How do we do this now? Observe something in nature which symbolizes how you wish to feel. Is it the ocean? Is it the wind blowing? Is it the leaves with the sun coming through? Is it a bluebird coming to your feet? Find something in nature today and let yourself feel what you're feeling in nature. Quietly sit and invite the Tao to bring that very same sensation to you. You will change your energy. And you will change, by the change of your energy, you change your vibration. And alignment with nature will take you to the oneness with the Tao. It's one of the greatest examples out there for us. Whether we're watching a pet or we're watching something in the wild, anything in nature will take you back to the truth to get connected with the flow. Verse number 24. If you stand on tiptoes, you cannot stand firmly. Unless you're a ballerina. If you take long steps, you cannot walk far. Showing off does not reveal enlightenment. Boasting will not produce accomplishments. He or she who is self-righteous is not respected. He or she who brags will not endure. All of these ways of acting are odious. Been a while since I saw that word. Odious and distasteful. They are superfluous excesses that are a pain in your stomach and a tumor in the body. When walking the path of the Tao, this is the very stuff that must be uprooted, thrown out, and left behind. There is no gray here, folks. And this is what I love about Lao Tzu. I mean, he kind of grabs you every once in a while does one of these in a very nice, firm but gentle way. This is odious stuff. Let it be. Let it go. It must go behind. The key teaching here is the path of the Tao needs to be cleared of any weeds of excessive personal importance. Why? Because that's the stuff of the ego. It takes you as soon as you're participating in it, talking about it, thinking it, you are out of the flow. You're out of the way. Everything you see, touch, or own is a gift from the Tao. It is our responsibility to suspend our ego and seek an attitude of gratitude and generosity for the Tao's creativity. You know, I was taken this spring as the leaves were coming out on the hills and all the trees. How can we ever have a belief in lack? Go back to nature and look at the abundance, look at the affluence, look at the prosperity. You can count those leaves if you wanted to. But we get caught up in our human stuff and the ego stuff around lack. Walk the path of the Tao by being a giver rather than a taker, providing for others and asking nothing in return. And Lao Tzu says this, change your life by these two things. Consciously choosing to be in a state of gratitude. An energy of gratitude will take you right back to the flow. Will it not? There's some here, and I know I've talked with, and I practice this, not every day, but having a journal of gratitude. If you're stuck in restrictive energy, just start writing down everything that you're grateful for. And you're going to watch your energy shift completely, immediately. Because gratitude connects you with the creativity of the Tao. Examining, and the second one here is examining your urge to boast and be self-righteous. Those two things take us out of the flow immediately. Practice repeating silently throughout your waking day and as you fall asleep. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Meister Eckhart said back in the 1600s, the greatest prayer you and I can ever do is this. Thank you. Be in a place of gratitude for all the good that you have and all the good that's coming as we move along. Boasting and showing off are examples of excesses. These practices must be uprooted, thrown out, and left forever. Again, a repeat of what the verse said. Express kindness to someone that is not expecting it from you. And watch what happens. Observe how your surprise act of kindness for another truly nurtures your Tao path and not that of your ego. There was kind of a program back a couple of years about random acts of kindness. That's what he's talking about here. Show up and surprise someone. Just be kind. And watch what happens. Be kind with no need to take credit for being kind. No need to tell anyone. You just get the blessing of getting yourself back in alignment with the flow. And finally today, verse 25. There was something formless and perfect before the universe was born. It is serene, empty, solitary, unchanging, infinite, eternally present. It is the mother of the universe. For lack of a better name, I call it the Tao. I call it great. Great is boundless. Boundless is eternal flowing and ever flowing. It is constantly returning. Therefore, the way is great, and heaven is great, and earth is great, and people are great. Thus, to know humanity, understand earth. To know earth, understand heaven. To know heaven, understand the way. To know the way, understand the great within you. What I love about Lao Tzu is no matter how great it becomes, he always brings us back to within ourselves. I don't know about you, but I was not taught, I was not domesticated that I was great. If you were one of the lucky charms. But most of us were never raised up that you were great. You have this greatness within you. And we see those who have, they do amazing things in their life. Because they start with that belief. But here's the really cool thing. We can start today and begin to get in touch with our greatness. We don't have to go back to what mom and dad didn't do very well. They did the best they knew how to do as far as I could figure. Nobody ever told them they were great either. But we can start today. Even before the beginning, there existed this something formless, perfect, and great. That's why we went back to verse 21, the very beginning. Get in touch with where you came from. Get in touch with the formless of the greatness called the mother of the universe. To know this formless perfection, you must understand the great within yourself. The 96% that we do not know exists inside, in the greatness within yourself. You and me are the central characters in this incredible saga called life. And we can't do one blasted thing about what happened in the past to right now. But if we want, we can be the energy masters and completely co-create whatever we want starting in this moment in time. That's what this whole teaching is about from 2,600 years ago. When critical and judging thoughts come, stop yourself and ask them, what do you want? Why are you doing that? Our intention, whenever we judge others or ourselves, judge myself, is always a desire to feel better, to feel good. We were taught, we were domesticated, that we could feel a little bit better if we judged them. It doesn't work. Because all we do is create an energy of the judgment of what we don't want. And when we learn the energy of this, we see why it's always come back. It's a universe of comeback. And if I judge you for something that I don't want, all I've done is set up the energy to attract exactly what I didn't want. How silly is that? But we've been doing it forever because it's all we knew to do. Stop yourself and ask that thought, what do you really want? And you're going to find that it really wants to feel good. All of us want to feel good, want to feel better. Then get quiet and feel the goodness that's flowing through you as the Tao. When you get reconnected, there's only good. You won't feel bad if there's only good coming through you. We only feel bad when we engage the ego and start the battle with someone else and create the storm. Trust in your own greatness. Catch yourself in the middle of an utterance of judgment, whether it's internal to yourself or external to someone else, and shift out of that belief that you are less than and into the greatness of the flow of who you are. That's where the rubber meets the road. We can listen to this all day. You can come here and you can repeat this talk, I don't care, 100 times. It isn't going to do one blasted bit of good unless you begin, when the thought comes to judge someone else or yourself. You must stop it in its tracks. And you can borrow from me, threaten to throw it in the river because it doesn't like to swim. And get centered on the greatness of who you are and the goodness of who you are. And you begin to bless them from your greatness. He says over and over again, this is the stuff we have to weed out. We have to leave it behind. We cannot make one step further until we do. I get what I think about, whether I want it or not. And so do you. Whatever I'm thinking, I'm bringing into my life. And we're going to get into how that creates the energy and the emotion. What's emotions? Energy, emotion. But it all starts with how I'm thinking. And it starts with one word. In the beginning was what? A word. And what happened to the word? The word became flesh. That was not talking about Jesus. That was talking about you and me. Our words are in the beginning become flesh. The more we hold them, the more we develop the energy around it. I get what I think about, whether I want it or not. You can be greatness and be a nobody at the same time. The paradox of the Tao Te Ching. Own and honor your greatness while at the same time understanding you're no one, nobody. What I'm learning is one of the most powerful things when people ask me a question, especially in coaching, I go, I don't know. What do you think? Some of the greatest breakthroughs in coaching comes when I don't tell. I have an idea, I have things I could share. But by holding back and saying I don't know, they discover their own greatness within them. It's one of the hardest things to do. When you combine minister and coach, it's tough. But the more I can shut up and let people discover their own greatness, the greater they will be. Because it's not mine, it's theirs. I love this. This came from Wayne Dyer. I came from greatness. I attract greatness. I am greatness. I don't know how it gets any better than that. To know that you came from that formless greatness of goodness, and that you are that now in this moment in time and always have been, what else can you say than I am greatness? And I envisioned this week thinking through this as I wonder how my life would have changed if I knew that when I was 6. I didn't. I was, there I went in the past, didn't I not? Got to get back in the present. I can decide today, in this moment, that I came from greatness, I attract greatness, and I am greatness. Write down these words. I came from greatness. I must be like what I came from. Genesis, 6,000 years ago or more, wrote, you and I were made in the likeness and the image of the Almighty. That's greatness. We came from that. We cannot be anything other than that unless we choose and decide that we will be less than that. I will never abandon my belief in my greatness and the greatness of others. How would your life change if you lived this? How would everyone else you know around you's life change if they lived it? And the last piece I have for this week is meditate for 10 minutes sometime this week on your inner greatness. Feel it. Experience it. And if you don't, ask for it. If you don't feel it, open up and say, I want to feel this inner greatness. I came from greatness. I am greatness, but I'm not feeling it. Ask for it. Watch what happens. Feel how great you really are. And I wanted to close today from Rumi. The lamps are different, but the light is the same. One matter, one energy. one light mind, endlessly emanating in all things. Let's go to silence. Take a great big deep breath in. And this time, exhale it out your mouth. Let it go. Let's do another one. Allow yourself to come inside into the very, very, very center core, where all goodness and greatness in the entire universe, for millions and billions of years, you came from the formless. You are the formless while being here in this physical form. Connect with that wisdom, that intelligence, that power, that force, that love, that light. And let it flow through you. Let it flow into your mind and down into your heart and then through your belly and out the bottoms of your feet. So much time we spend restricting the flow. So much time we spend with the energy split between good and not good. What I want and what I don't want. In this moment of time, release any split energy and just be in the flowness of your greatness, because that's who you are. That is the truth about you. Live into that truth this week. Stop yourself whenever you hear a judgment about yourself or someone else, and get reconnected with your goodness and your greatness. It only takes 90 seconds. And let's live this week in that energy of our goodness and greatness. And so it is. Namaste.